Today I'm going to review the rise and fall of American growth, the U.S. standard of living since the Civil War. This book, it's a tome. It's a long, detailed book about what's happened in the U.S. from 1870 to the present. I think it stops in 2015, but most of its conclusions are valid to the present, though it doesn't focus too much on things like AI, which is in the future from now, but it covers everything else. So I first read this book in 2016, right after it came out. Amazon kept recommending it to me, so I went ahead and I picked it up, and I really enjoyed it. And I didn't think too much more about it. Then recently, as I've been reading these AI books and the books about automation, a lot of them started mentioning this book, so I went back and I took another look at it, just in the context of having read all about automation and those things, and to see how that kind of fits into the story laid out in this book. And this book, it's really interesting. It goes into a lot of depth about what was going on in everyone's lives in every kind of generation from 1870 on. And it really illustrates exactly what was driving the productivity and the growth in the U.S. and what really were the big influential changes. And really the takeaway from the book is how we don't really have more of these kind of revolutionary changes in the future that we know about, at least. The big things the book covers, or not just what the book covers, but what the book concludes were the main drivers of where all the productivity over that period came from. It's electricity, and then it's running water, and then everything we were able to do once we had both of those things. You can think of a day back in 1870, if you're at home and if you have to wash clothes, if you have to do the dishes, you have to cook on an old wood fire oven that takes an hour to heat up, and then you have to clean with just a broom and rags. You didn't have any kind of vacuum cleaners or anything like that. Just how much time every day was sunk into things of that nature. Then once you have electricity and running water at your house, then all of a sudden washing clothes, you can get a washer and dryer, and you just hit a button and it does that for you. That used to be like a 3-hour process. Washing dishes, that might have taken an hour. Now you just load up the dishwasher, hit a button. Vacuuming, ovens that just turn right on, turn right off. You don't have to wait an hour to get them started. Things like that. Those really set the stage for saving a lot of time in everyone's day-to-day routines, and that allows people to go to work. And then in the 40s, you had women entering the workforce. And really, those groups of technologies, and then also infrastructure like roads and cars, that had a big impact too. But really, that little group of technologies caused the vast majority of the change in people's lives over that period of time. And we really don't have an analogous set of technologies coming. Right now, when we see productivity changing in the US or worldwide in the developed world, a lot of what we see changing doesn't really impact productivity. The way our TVs are getting better, our computers are getting faster, but that's not really changing much other than we're getting more personal value. Like video games now are unbelievably good compared to when I was a kid. But yeah, they still cost about the same amount of money. I think they're like $50, $60 for a video game. That's the same thing they were when I had a Nintendo 64. So the price hasn't changed, but the quality is astronomically better. But a lot of these things aren't moving the needle as far as productivity and really revolutionary changes to our lives. And when you look at third world countries that are developing, the things that are really making a difference there are the same things that made a difference to us when we were developing, or the US. When I say us, I mean the US. But that's really what this book is about. It's a really interesting book. I highly enjoyed it. It may sound dull. It's not dull at all. It tells you the story from the perspective of the people living in every one of these times, and what would have changed in their day-to-day life. And you really see the story from the perspective of someone living through all of these changes. And that really makes the book kind of brings everything together and makes it really cohesive and interesting. And this book is really, I see it as an antidote to just like the nonsense you hear from politicians and talking heads when they talk about the economy. They always talk about the really short-term things like interest rates and taxes, tariffs, short-term profits, where profits are at this quarter versus last quarter and next quarter. And they over-dramatize everything. And this book really goes in and it shows you where all the really important changes came from. And it's none of the stuff that's being talked about day to day in the news cycles. But I really enjoyed this book. I definitely recommend it, but I would only recommend it to someone who's really going to invest the time to read the book. It is, I can't stress enough how long and detailed this book is. It is, there's charts, there's graphs. It goes in depth. I think it's something like 650, 700 pages. There's a lot of indices and things of that nature in the back to go through data sources and all that kind of stuff. But it's definitely a commitment to read the book. But I think it's extremely valuable, especially if you're in the U.S. or a similarly developed country, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, anything like that will probably be the same. Or even if you're not, if you're in a country that's still in the process of really developing, like China or any of those areas. I'm not sure what languages the book has been translated into, but if you can read it, get your hands on it, it's definitely a really good book. It's one of my top economics books because economics can be very number driven. It's like there's a lot of charts. It's very dry. It doesn't seem interesting. This book really takes it and gives you the like on the ground view of the people who are living through these economic changes and ties together all the macroeconomic information to really the nitty gritty details of human lives. And that's really what I think made the book so good. So definitely I recommend it if you're interested. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll have another review coming out soon of another AI automation book, The Fourth Age. That was a very good book. That review will be coming very soon. So like, subscribe, stick around. I'll have a lot more stuff coming in the future. Thanks.